Yeah, I like what you said about we don't know because it really is a very humble place to be. It levels everything out. And we talked about a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about today, not all of it, but we're just bringing it back up. But we talked about some of this stuff in episode 11, and we talked about the ego and how um, the ego comes into all of this. But it, like when you said we don't know, it just reminded me of that because and it's the ego that wants to be like, I know that it's a flat plane. I know that it's this. I know that it's that. And do you really? I mean, does anybody really know anything? It's a humble place to be when you don't know. And you can, like you said, not take things personally when you're in that space of like, I really don't know. And in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Like, because would I rather have a friendship with this person based on the things, and we talked about this as well. Would I rather have a friendship with this person based on the things that we do have in common, based on the things we do like about each other, based on their good character versus like, oh, we disagree on this point, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's really important because I feel like, there's different ways to look at this whole experience that we're having, right? And there's some people who are the ones that are like at the tops of these I guess we could just say pyramids and structures, right? And they're the ones that are coming up with all these crazy things like Event 201 and all these plans and like, smart cities, and everybody gets worried about like Agenda 2030 and all this stuff that's going on. So there's this line of division, and there's a lot of people who are trying to spread information about it and talk about it in their own unique way. And I'm glad that you brought up the ego, because I think it's a good time for us to define what we actually mean by ego. So many words just have so many meanings, right? And that's why we prefer symbolism, because a symbol is up to somebody else's interpretation. But the way that I like to define ego would be it's a part of yourself, right? It's a part of your brain that is kind of represents I guess you could say the collective conscious. So anytime you are going to go against something like that, or anytime you want to stand up and do your own thing, say you don't want to you want to start your own way to support yourself in the world, and you want to start a business or whatever, and there's this voice in the back of your head that's like talking to you, and it sometimes, and this isn't for all people, but sometimes it'll tell you all these negative things, and it'll say, oh, you're going to fail, or this won't work, or they're all going to laugh at you. Which would be good if you're trying to be a comedian, but if you're not trying to be a comedian, you don't want everyone laughing at you. And even when it comes to your everyday things that you're going to do, sometimes it just floods you with worries of, excuse me, worries of the future or worries of the past. But it's this voice in your head that's constantly chattering about all this stuff. And this is what we mean by the ego. Now, we don't demonize the ego here. We don't think it's this thing where, sometimes in the new age, they'll tell you that you have to destroy your ego and you have to get rid of it. Where I think that in this, like in our section of the realm, like in the United States, the way people are raised, we're kind of ego heavy. It's ego dominant. So for me, I know I was stuck in that point of view and I didn't follow my intuition as much. So as I began to cultivate my intuition through, the use of some plant medicines and then a lot of meditation and contemplation and artwork and just like walking in the woods and just doing my own thing and spending a lot of time alone, I started to cultivate this other voice that was inside me. But this voice speaks to me anyway, more like a feeling. It's more of a feeling, kind of like, so just imagine when you're going to do something that you know is wrong and you're trying to think, should I do this or shouldn't I? And you have this feeling, and it's just like, it makes you like kind of sick. I remember the first time when I was really young, the first time I remember stealing anything was I used to have GI Joes, And I had this one, it was like a jet, and it had a little figure that came with it, and he had this little helmet that popped on top. It was like a space helmet, and it fell off and I lost it or whatever. My friend had one, so I just took it, and I felt so terrible about it. Like it was crazy. It was this little piece of plastic, but I just felt so bad about it that I don't remember what I did. I don't think I returned it. I just like threw it away or threw it in the backyard or just like got rid of it. And that's the feeling that I'm talking about when I'm talking about intuition. It's this feeling that you did something wrong. And that's normally when it speaks to a lot of people, especially when you're stuck in an egocentric mind frame and you're listening to the ego mostly. You just have this like kind of sick feeling about it, this feeling of unrest or of disharmony inside you. So this is what we mean by the ego. We don't think that you should destroy it or try to get rid of it. It's more like a tool. That's how we look at it, because sometimes you need that ego way to look at things. And sometimes when you're dealing with people or you're in a certain situation, you have to use that ego along with your logic to make your way through. But we feel like there's some kind of balance that could be attained in that situation.